One man, the same bridge, over 4,000 times. He was arrested, escaped from jail, arrested again, convicted again, and he was never, not once, charged for selling the bridge. The victims believed so completely that police had to physically remove them from the bridge itself. As they tried to set up toll booths they believed that they owned, and by the time those officers arrived, Parker had already sold it to someone else. This is the debrief. Most con artists succeed once, maybe twice, maybe a handful of times before someone catches on. Parker's entire operation relied on one insight that most people spend their whole lives never understanding. People don't get conned because they're stupid. They get conned because they're hoping. And hope is the most exploitable thing in the human mind. This is the story of George C. Parker, a man who didn't just sell a bridge. He sold the idea that America works to the people who needed to believe it most. And by the end of this, you will understand not just how he did it, but why the same mechanism is being used on you right now. George C. Parker was born in New York City in 1860. Irish parents, 8 children, Lower Manhattan, which in 1860s was the loudest, most overcrowded, most chaotic square mile in the world. Every nationality, every language, every degree of desperation pressed together in the streets too narrow for the number of people filling them. And the young Parker noted something that most people in that city missed: the rules. Nobody actually knew them. Not the immigrants, not the tourists, not even the residents who had been there for years. New York in 1880 was too new, too fast, too loud for anyone to know exactly what was possible and what was not. Parker understood that gap. He studied it, tested it. He started small thefts, small cons, learning the exact moment trust forms in a stranger's eyes and how long it holds before it breaks. By his 20s, he had his answer. Trust holds long enough to sell a bridge. The question was only, which bridge? Imagine you are on the ship. You have been below deck for most of the Atlantic crossing. 11 days, maybe 14. The smell of salt water, and 200 other people in the dark. Your money is sewn into the lining of your coat. Everything you own is in one bag. And then the horn sounds. And you come up on deck, and there is New York, before the skyscrapers, before the Statue of Liberty. The first thing you see, spanning from one shore to the other, impossible and permanent, is the Brooklyn Bridge. 14 years to build. 27 men died during the construction. The chief engineer died before it was finished. His son directed the remainder from a wheelchair, crippled by decompression sickness from working underwater on the foundations. When it opened in 1883, a historian from the New York Historical Society described the bridge as one of the 2 most recognized symbols of America. The other was the Statue of Liberty. Parker would eventually sell that too. But the bridge was different. The bridge was close to the port. The bridge was the first thing arriving immigrants saw, and Parker understood, with a precision that most economists still do not fully grasp, what it means to show a person the symbol of a dream at the exact moment they need the dream most. Here is what most tellings of the story get wrong. They describe Parker as a charming man who talked fast and got lucky. He was not. He was an operation. It started before the ship docked. Parker paid stewards, workers on the Atlantic crossing vessels, to do one job during each voyage: find the passengers with cash, Find the ones who talked about investing in America. Find the ones with hope in their eyes and money in their coat lining, and report back when the ship arrived. By the time the Mark stepped off the gangplank, Parker already knew their name. He would approach them in the street dressed impeccably, suit pressed, shoes polished, the easy confidence of a man who owns things. He would open with flattery, how remarkable they were to have made the crossing, how clear it was they were exactly the kind of person America needed. And then, almost as an afterthought, he would mention that he was looking for someone reliable to work in a toll booth he was planning to erect. His toll booth, on his bridge. He would walk them toward it. He would have a sign posted at the entrance. For sale. The Mark would stop, look up at the bridge, look back at Parker, and Parker would wait. He never offered the sale. He let them ask, could I, perhaps, instead of working the booth, buy the bridge outright? Parker would pause, consider, reluctantly agree. He would walk them to his office, a real office, in a real building, filing cabinets full of forged deeds, official city seals, architectural drawings of the bridge, and he would produce the documents. His ownership papers were, by all accounts, masterpieces. Fake signatures from city officials, legal language so precise it sounded more legitimate than the real thing. The price varied, $75 some days, about $2,000 in today's money, $50,000 on his best days, $1.3 million in today's money, for a bridge he did not own. The buyers were not fools. They were people who had already survived something. They had left behind a country that didn't want them, a war, a famine, a government that had made clear they were not welcome. They had crossed an ocean in the dark with everything they owned sewn into their coats because they didn't trust a bank they'd never seen. They had arrived in a city where they did not speak the language, did not know the laws, did not know what was allowed and what was not, and a well-dressed man who already knew their name told them with official documents that they could have their own piece of America, that they could charge tolls, that they could build an income, that this time it would work. They believed him. They would go back to the bridge, set up the portable toll booth Parker had included in the sale, stop traffic, collect payment, certain, completely certain, that they were within their rights. And then the police arrived. The officers would explain, sometimes patiently, sometimes not, that the bridge did not belong to them and that there was no record of any sale, that a man named George Parker did not own the Brooklyn Bridge. The money was gone. Parker was already across town, looking for the next ship that was coming into the harbor. The Brooklyn Bridge was not the only target. Parker also sold the Statue of Liberty, Madison Square Garden, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Grant's tomb, where he told buyers he was the general's grandson, the rightful heir to the property. But the Brooklyn Bridge was the most efficient. By his own account, an account historians have never fully disproved, he sold it twice a week for 40 years. If that number is accurate, and even half of it is accurate, more than 2,000 people handed George Parker their life savings for a bridge he did not own. 2,000 families, 2,000 moments where someone believed that this time it would work. By 1928, 68 years old, Parker was finally out of chances. He had been arrested before, escaped once simply by walking out while guards were distracted, convicted twice, appealed, continued. The 1928 charge was not for the bridge. It was for attempting to sell Madison Square Garden. He was sentenced to life in Sing Sing. He died there in 1937, 77 years old. By all accounts, every account, the most popular man in the prison. The other inmates would gather around him in the evenings to hear him talk. They did not want to hear about the regret. They wanted to hear about the bridge, about the office, about the documents, about the mark, seeing the for sale sign and asking, on their own, whether they could buy it outright. About the moment Parker would pause, consider, reluctantly agree. He never stopped being proud of it. We still use his phrase, if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. We use it to mean you are gullible. We are wrong. Parker's victims were not gullible. They were exhausted. They were hopeful. They were in a country whose rules they did not know. And a man with a suit and a seal told them the rules worked in their favor. This is not stupidity. That is the design. Every con that has ever worked, every financial fraud, every romance scam, every phishing email, every investment opportunity that felt too good, but not quite too good to be true, runs on the same engine Parker built in Lower Manhattan in the 1880s. Find the hope. Feed it just enough to be credible. Let them convince themselves. The bridge is always for sale. It always has been. And the people buying it are never fools. They are the people who needed something to be true, badly enough to stop asking whether it was. That is the debrief on George C. Parker, a man who understood something most people never learn. The con is never the lie. The con is the hope you were already carrying when he found you. If you want to go deeper, The Confidence Game by Maria Konnikova is the definitive psychological analysis of why intelligent, careful people fall for cons, and why the mechanism Parker used in 1900s is identical to the ones running in financial markets today. Liar's Poker by Michael Lewis covers the precise point at which institutional trust becomes an exploitable weapon, exactly what Parker understood before Wall Street did. And the New York Historical Society archives hold the original documentation from the Parker era publicly accessible. Subscribe to Debrief if this is the kind of story you want more of. Next week, we are pulling the file on a man who did not just con individuals, he conned a country, and when it collapsed, it took the entire global economy with it.